is finding event spaces.
Which you give me the ick, Candicia.
Co-founders Candicia and Camilla John says this event is an important way of bridging the gap in the hair care community, especially for women of color.
If a venue tells you is included in the price, run. Like literally run.
Yeah.
Because they're lying to you.
Your hair falling out? What happened there, Candicia?
Oh gosh. Okay, so
This is the bane of our existence.
Yes.
Every single year. We've been doing this for 6 years now. And
this
it's
is with
still
our chest
a struggle.
now. When it comes to sponsorships, you are fighting for your dream. You are fighting for your community that you are backing up because you have to make sure that these sponsors align with you too.
Going from an unprofitable event to a profitable event is a big jump. Walk us through what happened there. Today on the show, we have Candicia and Camilla John, the founders of Curly Girl Meetup, one of the biggest curly hair events in Canada. So on the show, we're talking about throwing events, the ups and downs and challenges of that, and lessons you can learn if you want to have your own. All right, tap is going to be a good one. Let's go. Ladies, welcome to the show. How y'all doing?
We're good. Yeah, we're not doing too bad.
So to get right into it, Camilla and Candicia, how did you guys launch your first event? What happened?
Oh man, that is a story and a half. So we did it in about 3 months. So that was really interesting. So we started planning in June and we launched in August. And it was late August. We picked a random spot downtown. I guess some people could call it like a ghetto spot. It was a photo studio. And we actually DIY'd everything from the beginning. So I remember we were running to the dollar store. We were hot gluing like different decor together. We made like our own backdrop. Yeah, we really just DIY'd the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was definitely humble beginnings. It still obviously is, but definitely humble beginnings when we started in 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now tell me about like your hair falling out. What happened there, Candicia?
Oh gosh. Okay. So my hair falling out. So basically, let's take it back to when I was younger. This was probably around high school. And we knew each other in high school around that time. But I think this was before I had met you. So basically, we started chemically straightening our hair, the both of us. I actually followed my sister's footsteps. Because she decided to do it first. And we weren't in love with our hair at all. We actually got bullied for it a little bit, like in high school, because, I mean, going to a predominantly white school, a lot of people didn't look like us. So that really caused a strain on our, like, appearance and how we viewed ourselves. So when I decided to chemically straighten my hair, this was around the time of graduation photos. So I don't know if you remember, because they used to put us in that like room. I think it was like the records office or something like that. And yeah, like wanted to take our graduation photos. And the day before, I got my hair done. And when she was like rinsing out the perm, all my hair started falling out in the sink. So at that point, I started looking like, like the doll on the Rugrats. Like that's what I looked like.
Damn.
And I remember I ran to my sister's room and I told her like we need to fix my hair. So she took a curling wand and we started curling my hair in different directions just to make it look full for the photos. But when I tell you my hair smelled fried, it smelled like, yeah, it just smelled chemically burnt. And yeah, it was a really traumatic experience and I had to learn how to regrow my hair. And at that point, yeah, just regrowing my hair just started a whole journey. And we won't talk about the YouTube days because I put that way past me now. But actually, after documenting my journey, that's when we really started to grow our community online. So, yeah.
So which one was first? Was it the YouTube journey of creating content and then doing the event, or was it the event and then saying, oh, let me create content after?
Yeah, it was the YouTube journey, and then that funneled into the community. So actually how we started to speak to sponsors and brands, that actually came from my YouTube journey. So building those relationship with brands and things like that, I really just piggyback off of that relationships and like just really just kind of catapulted it from there. So,
So, all right. So, launching Curly Girl Meetup, Toronto Curly Girl Meetup. Now it's Curly Girl Meetup. When did you get your first sponsor?
I mean, we had like in-kind sponsors, but our first like paid monetary sponsor was 2022. So literally like two years ago.
yeah, 2 years ago now.
Was our first
yeah.
paid sponsors. So everything was out of pocket for the years before.
Damn.
Yeah.
Hold
And
on.
it's an expensive business
It's
too.
very expensive.
So people think like throwing an event is like throwing a birthday party together. It is not that. So your fees, if you think of like an average wedding, especially here in Canada, like double that. And that's
Double that.
Yeah, that's what a conference is going to start looking like. So it's a very expensive business to do out of pocket.
Very.
Yeah.
Damn. All right. So how are you maintaining it? Were you just like working and paying, just using like your salary? How are you guys paying for the first 2 years? 4 years?
Yeah, a lot of it kind of came from like our own work that we were doing. So through family and friends, but then also I was working a full-time job during the pandemic. So a lot of that money was funneling back into the business and just working off of in-kind as much as we could. Like we had to keep our expenses extremely low. So again, going to the dollar store, no shame in our game. Even having like our mom, like she helped us out with like food and catering because like that's what she used to do for a living for a little bit. So she helped us out a lot in that department. But yeah, just really just trying to like volunteer it out, like doing the best that we could. And yeah, just funneling a lot of our full-time money to the event. So and ticket sales. Ticket sales definitely helped too.
Got you. All right. So going from an unprofitable event to a profitable event is a big jump. Walk us through what happened there.
Man, Camilla, do you want to
I
take
don't
this
know.
one?
I'm kind of like, is it really that profitable? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a little
it
questionable.
Varies every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
And I feel like this year is the year that it's been shaky.
Very.
It's been shaky. But I would say to go from not being profitable to somewhat being profitable, you really have to strategize. And that's what we've been able to do. So being able to talk to the brands, being able to strategize and market has really been able to help us keep afloat. Also building a community online, which my sister is the go-to person when it comes to community building. That's been really helpful for us to stay afloat. I think on top of that too, like having multiple events throughout the year, you know, you get those pockets of revenue and just being able to stretch that
Multiple
as much as
events.
you can.
I thought it was just the ultimate. How much events do you have per year?
So last year we actually expanded to doing smaller meetups. So originally Toronto Curly Girl Meetup was our main experience. And then we rebranded to the Ultimate Curly Hair Experience being our largest event every year. And then we started to see, you know, different topics that people really wanted to learn more about. So we kind of started meetups in a way. So those are our smaller, more intimate events that we do throughout the year. So last year we did one other event apart from the Ultimate Curly Hair Experience. And then this year we already did one event in April. And then we're planning to do another event for the winter months as well. So 3 events for this year, but last year we did 2.
Got it. So the strategy now is to have an event almost like per season kind of thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Interesting. Now, we were talking about building community a second ago. Camilla, talk to us about building community. How have you been able to cultivate a community? Because you are like the brains behind the social media marketing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to me.
Wow. Okay. So community building is one of the more important things that you should be doing when it comes to your business, because your community is what really keeps you strong, keeps you going, gives you the support for your business. So for me, I really do take the approach of treating people the way you want to be treated. So expressing what you would want to feel in a community to other people, they're going to want to feel the same thing too. So really asking a lot of questions too. Like I'm never afraid to be like, hey, like after an event, did you guys enjoy the event? Did you not? What didn't you enjoy about the event? It's like having a conversation back and forth with people online. And it's so beautiful that like over the years, it's like I know people's names. And I think that's really important, especially even when I'm seeing like the same usernames commenting. I'm like, thank you, Sarah. Like it just really breeds more community. So it's really treating people the way that you want to be treated, but also cultivating like a very safe and intimate and personal space. Like you're just talking to like your girlfriend and like your friends and your family. So I think it's really important to have that strong community aspect. And I think, Curly Girl Meetup definitely has that.
Most definitely. Now, I actually skipped over our icebreaker, which is business icks. And I put this at the front. So talk to me. What are some of your biggest business icks?
Oh,
I have too many.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
I would say my first one, since we just talked about social media, it gives me the ick when people put links in their captions and they say, click the link. Child, it's not clickable. You can't click it. You can't see it. So that really gives me the ick when people continuously do that. I'm like, just put in your bio, put a link on your stories. We can click those, not in the captions. So that's really an ick for me when I continuously see that, to be honest.
Yeah, or like 35 hashtags in the caption.
Who's reading all those jumbled up words?
Yeah,
Nobody.
Honestly. Word. What about you, Candicia?
Oh man, I have a few, but I want to say my first one is to make an email a meeting. That is a big ick for me. Like if it's like a discovery, like, hey, I just want to have a coffee chat in a meeting. I'm sorry, I don't have time for that. I really don't. Like, if you want to know more about the business, I can give you my media kit. I can give you a bio. I can give you any type of information. I'm not, no. I there's that, and also making a phone call meeting. I don't like phone call meetings, but then that's just also personal to me. I don't like being on the phone. That is one thing about me. If you can text me, if you can email me, I for sure will answer you. If you want to call me, my phone's instantly on Do Not Disturb. Please don't do that. Don't do that. So yeah, I would say those are like my two. And if I had to put a third one in there, I would say very lengthy emails. That's another one. If you're going to write me a whole novel and it's just a runaround of what you're actually trying to ask me, don't do that either.
Okay, actually piggybacking off of that, which you give me the ick, Candicia.
I give you the ick? What did I do?
I don't like when people have like a large paragraph email and they don't separate it.
Yeah, okay.
Because in a world that we get so many emails, who's sitting there to read your novel? Nobody's doing that. So I like when you separate it, so it's like an easier read. Yeah. Candicia loves to do that, and I've tried to train her.
I'm sorry.
Sometimes she still doesn't get it.
I still do it.
It does give me the ick, I'm not gonna lie.
It's actually funny because I'll start writing an email, and then like I'll look at Camilla, and Camilla will be like, is it in one big paragraph?
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, don't even send it. Don't even bother. Like, let me fix it. So she's always like behind me, like fixing my work, which is funny because a lot of people think I'm a perfectionist. I don't think I am. You take it to a whole different level.
Yeah. When it comes to work stuff.
Yeah, work stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm organized except for my emails, apparently.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So for people who don't know, when it came to Hustle Talks Live, these lovely ladies were the quarterbacks, And let me tell you, if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have happened at all. It would have been a shit show, to say the least. And the way Camilla read me the riot act when it came to my social media, it was something. It was something.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
and she gave me like a complete structure of how to roll out everything from the stories to the post, you know, really gave me a consultative experience.
Mhm.
All right, walk me through like social media for events, because that is something different. I didn't know that you have to have a different strategy for events than you do for anything else when it comes to social media. So break that down.
To be honest, like I don't think it's that different for me. Maybe it's because I apply like some of the same strategies, like what I would do for Curly Prints, which is our other business. Um, but I think for event marketing, it's more about getting people excited about what
Mm,
you have to offer and what they're going to experience at the event. So at the beginning, before we start rolling out like our speakers, like guests, like all of that stuff, I always ask on the story, what are you guys most excited to see or like experience at the event? And I'll put like a poll sticker on stories so people can click, like what they're most excited to see. So we take that into consideration about like the rollout timeline. So if people are excited about knowing what the theme is for the year, then we'll try to make sure that's one of the first things that we put out. If it's the panelists, like we try our best to put that out like first. So I would say it's more about getting people really excited and getting people engaged like almost every day. If it's not a post on the feed every day, it's definitely like stories every day that I make sure like I do so people can engage. Or I'll be like, have you guys gotten your tickets? Are you excited for the event? So it's really about like community building, like I said, and asking questions. What are you excited to see? So
mm,
it's an exciting rollout. It's not just this boring thing where it's like just putting everything out with no strategy, no organization. So
mm,
I
that's what I would
think
say.
also just to piggyback off of you too, like we do a lot of BTS content. And I
Yeah.
think that's another thing that people really enjoy seeing is the making of the event and like going through the highs and lows with us. Like we're very candid online about like what we're going through, what the situation is, like why things haven't come out as quickly as it should. We keep those things like on the forefront because like you said, that also builds like honesty and trust with our community. And we also make sure we answer like the who, the what, the when, the
Mhm.
where, the how, and like making sure that we're constantly reminding people because on social media, like, yes, you have your followers, but you also have like this new audience of people that are constantly watching, constantly engaging, or they're just hopping in and out. So just making sure that there's constant information about the who, the what, the when, the where, and how, and like what are we doing and why is it important? Those things for sure we keep top of mind every single time.
Mhm.
mm. All right, that's a big gem. Now let's get to something that is a crux of the business and that's very challenging. Sponsors. What's been your experience dealing with sponsors over the last 3 years, building out Curly Girl Meetup?
Man,
Mm.
oh, the sponsors.
What a whirlwind.
What a whirlwind. Like, I feel like there is like almost like a fantasy of having sponsors. It's like that is like the creme de la creme. Like having like, for example, TD Canada or having Staples or like something like that, like a big company that's like backing your event. A lot of people don't realize that having a sponsor is almost, it kind of feels like selling your soul a little bit because you have to now deliver. And delivering on the things that they are paying for you to do is a job at the end of the day. Like a sponsorship is not just take my money and let's go to Cancun with it. Like it's not that. You have to now show, okay, for example, if they're giving you $50,000, what did you do with the $50,000? Did you do the marketing? Did you double up on their reach? Did you make sure that, they now tapped into a new market? Are we coming out with out of the box ideas for social campaigning? A lot of these things are going into sponsorships, and a lot of people fantasize about having sponsors because they think it's free money. It's not free money. It comes with a job and it comes with responsibilities. So I think that's kind of the misconception. But working, especially with a title sponsor, that is a whole different ball game. That's just woo. That's a little crazy because the thing is what they want and what they're gonna give you is two different things. So I would say like last year for sure was an eye-opening experience.
It was a big learning experience.
Yeah. So I say like most of our summer, and that's another thing too, we don't get a summer because like when our event happens is at the end of summer. So really our summer is spent on working with sponsors and working with brands. We were probably in meetings every 2 weeks.
Sometimes every week.
Yes. And multiple meetings, like gridlock back to back to back meetings with different departments from different parts of that business, just making sure that the sponsorship worked on every level. Everything had to be approved and legally like making sure that like everything was like to the T. So that was a huge experience and I think an eye-opening one.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I think when it comes to sponsors in general, like you find those rare gems in the industry. I'm just going to be very honest. Like you can have a really great experience with a sponsor and you can have a really terrible experience with a sponsor, just depending on the partnership type or just how the brand is. There's a lot of brands that everything has to go through an approval process, whereas some brands are a breeze. Like some of our sponsors for this year have been like really, really gracious and kind to us, where they don't really ask much. Like they just believe in everything that we have to offer and everything that we built. And it's a no-brainer. And they're just like, yeah, I really want to support this. So they just don't like ask as many questions as some may. So like Candicia said, I think there's really a misconception when it comes to sponsorships. That's like the golden ticket that everybody like wants when it comes to events. And I'm not saying it's not great. It's a huge blessing. Like especially these days is a huge blessing to get like monetary sponsorship for your events, especially as brands are pulling back on their budget. But it is definitely like a toss-up of experience. It could be really great and a breeze, or it could be really demanding and excruciating.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm starting to realize is that when you get a sponsorship, you're kind of integrating into that company's culture. You know, so if the company has like a high approval process, like you're saying, you have to now get into that, and you have to get into the people that are at that company, because it's not a brand you work with; you're working with a person, right? So you have to deal with that person and the company culture. And if you have 10 sponsors, that's 10 different companies that you're adjusting to and trying to make work and trying to satisfy. So it becomes tedious real quick.
Oh yeah.
So if you don't have like the flexibility to, adapt to each person and be able to keep everybody happy, it can fall.
Yeah.
I think another thing too is like even within those teams, you might find some individuals that don't even believe in what we do.
Yeah.
Like we get all different types of discrimination across the board between like our age. Some people think we're too young to run the company. Some people don't even think we're Black.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other ballgame. The other part too, like they may not even understand the language of what we're trying to translate with the event. So like they want to offer, for example, like products for straight hair. And we're like, but you just gave us money for the ultimate curly hair experience. Like I'm getting a little mixed signals here. So, it's always having to dial back and like also remind yourself like you are speaking to a person for sure. But then it's also like making sure we fight for ourselves. And that's another thing too, like when it comes to sponsorships, you are fighting for your dream. You are fighting for your community that you are backing up, because you have to make sure that these sponsors align with you too. Like they have to align with what the event is, what we're about, what our community wants. Because if it's not going to work for our community, for example, a product in a swag bag, if they're going to go home and they're going to try it in their bathroom and they're going to hate it, we cannot have that sponsor. I don't care if the check is like 6 figures, 7 figures. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And you have to almost have that ethics about yourself, about am I running towards a check just to have the name, or am I running away from it because I know my community well enough? Mm-hmm. And I think that's another part about events too. You have to know your community so well, to a point that I was like, okay, I know they have this company, that company, this company in the bathroom. And you know that without a shadow of a doubt. You know how often they're using those products, how quickly are they using it up? When they go back to the store, what are they looking for? What price point are they looking for? All of those things go into conversations with the sponsor and landing a deal. You have to know those things.
It's true, actually. And I think more this year, because last year we were more familiar with the products that we're getting for the swag bags. But this year we actually had to tell the brands, we need to test this stuff out before it goes in the swag bag if we weren't already familiar with the product. So we sacrificed our hair a lot at the beginning of this year just to make sure, and testing it on other people with different hair types as well. But we definitely had to test it out this year just to see if it's actually going to align for our community, because our community is so diverse. They don't just look like us.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure we're testing these things with other people, family and friends and stuff, to make sure that these products are suitable, that people are going home with after our event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's a big challenge, because with a lot of companies that are doing swag bags, it's usually like whatever you find, like, hey, just throw it in there.
In the bag.
Just throw it in there. It's all good. But for y'all, it's like your integrity kind of gets intertwined into it, and it has to match a girl that's 4C, a girl that's 3B, or whatever different coil textures that they have, you know. So that's tough, because it's like if it goes wrong, then they might come back at you, you know.
There is that.
Yeah. So now when it comes to events, how are you finding like event spaces? Like, what's your experience finding event spaces?
Oh my goodness.
Damn,
Camilla knows
this is the bane of our existence. Every single year. We've been doing this for 6 years now, and
this is with our chest now.
It is still a struggle.
It's a struggle, especially in Toronto. You know what? I feel like after I've done a little bit of dibble dabble into the venue world, I feel like there's a Toronto mafia when it comes to venues, because like there is such a gridlock in the city when it comes to venue spaces, because it's either one of two things will happen. It's either they'll see the type of event that you have and they'll jack up the price, or B, they'll see the type of person that you are and they will still jack up the price. On top of that too, there is no cap on fees. I've seen ridiculous fees. I've seen nonsense fees. Like, it doesn't matter. Whatever they want to charge you is what they're going to charge you. And you cannot argue with that, because the other issue with it is that we don't have enough venue spaces that are owned by us, owned by the community, and big enough to host larger events. So as soon as you talk like over 100 people, you're getting into conference style like pricing, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all. Like, my heart sinks every single time when we see an invoice.
And the thing is, we start early every year to look for a venue, like a year in advance, 6 months in advance, whatever it is. And it's still the same challenge every single year of this high ticketed price that nobody can pay. But why are we still accepting it? I don't know, because we talked to so many people recently in the event space, and everybody's saying the same thing. I'm like, why are we like accepting this still as event holders in Toronto? It doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, the pricing is absolutely astronomical.
What are we talking about? What's some of these pricing? Like, give us some numbers. What are some of the crazy numbers you've gotten?
We've seen anything between 3,000 to 60,000.
Damn.
60,000 was the base, though. That
was the base price.
The finalized price.
I think that was only for one room or 2 rooms in that venue.
Something like that.
It was not what we needed at all.
No.
Like, it was horrible. So the things that I've seen, like on an invoice, there's been a coat hanger fee. I've seen there's a chef's fee. There is a chef staff fee. There is a lighting fee. There is a electrician fee. Obviously, all of these things are standard. But I think like there's literally a fee for every single thing. And it's like, oh, to have the lights on for 15 minutes. Oops, a fee. It's like, oh, if you want to have like someone at the front door, oops, a fee. Like, it's like they just come up with fees out of their wazoo, and it's like nothing makes sense. But yeah, 60,000 to start was probably the wildest one we've ever seen.
Wild. And that was this
Yeah.
year. So I don't even want to think about next year, but absolutely ridiculous. People in Toronto need to fix this up in some way. I don't know how, but I think it's just not sustainable as a event holder to hold events in Toronto at these prices, because when you're paying these prices for a venue, how are you putting on an experience on top of that? You can't even pay the venue, but how are you building an experience and giving people something for the event?
Yeah.
So your budget has to be maybe 300,000, if not 500,000. Who's affording that these days?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
And
I can go on and on about this.
It's just such a whirlwind. Like, we've just seen so many different things like across the board. And it's like, it's just one of those things that unfortunately, like, there's not much you can do about it. And to get a sponsor for a venue,
I don't know how people are
I don't know how
doing
people do it.
but
I don't get it. Like, they
never
probably
worked
know
for us.
somebody within the company that's probably dating the person that they're speaking to. Like, I don't know. But like, it's just, it's wild. It's wild out here.
what are some of the hidden fees? So you said like the electrician, but are those ones you're actually seeing in contracts, like the electrician fee? What are some of the hidden fees that they're like sneaking into contracts that people should be aware of?
AV is a big one. If a venue tells you AV is included in the price, run. Like, literally run.
Yeah.
Because they're lying to you. Their AV is probably just to have the lights on. It's not to program their screens. It's not to have a mic. It's not to have a soundboard. It's not to do anything. And most of the time, these venues don't even have equipment for you to use. So they're relying on you to go to an outside company to rent your equipment, to have a technician to run the equipment. But then for legality reasons, they can't touch certain equipment because it's now a liability. So there's a lot of red tape when it comes to that. So definitely asking if they say AV is included.
Question them.
But yeah, definitely make sure it is either in contract, or if it's not in contract, get them to stipulate exactly what do they mean.
One thing I saw that was crazy was food. Like, sometimes the food gets looped into the event. Like, I see your reaction already, Candicia. Like, what goes on with food and events and like the venues? Break that down, because I think a lot of people that want to throw events need to know about that part.
Yeah, so sometimes these venues have preferred vendors, so you have to work with the people they have contracted out. So sometimes they have these caterers and partners that they already work with at the venue, and you have to go with them. There's no way to go around it. Even if you're like, hey, I already have a partner for myself, can I please bring them in? You can maybe bring them in, but they're going to charge you, what is it? Like
a landmark fee. Yeah,
What is
and that is like
I don't even know
15
what that means.
So that's well, depending on the venue, that could be 15 to 20% more than what your food is valued at. So that's a whole other thing too. On top of that, like, they love to add catering because everybody knows you have to feed people during an event. So catering companies can charge you. I've seen bills like at least a good 20,000 when your venue rental is like 10. So that's like an extra $20,000 on top of whatever you're paying the venue. And it's because you have to. And that's within their contract. They're saying you have to go with them. It's not a choice.
Yeah.
So even to like the type of food, you cannot choose the type of food that you want. You have to pick it from a standardized menu. And you cannot taste test before. Some of them do not allow you to taste test beforehand. So it's a lot. And it's not fun. And I think like that's another thing too, like that people use in order to make the money, because they're double ending. That's essentially why they're doing what they're doing. But to say like, oh yeah, like I want the best food in the business and I have, I don't know, like this Caribbean caterer that can like do it for me, 9 times out of 10, they'll probably block them some type of way, whether they can't use the kitchen or there's a fee to use the kitchen, or there's a fee to use their taps and their sinks, that's a whole other fee too.
Damn. So is there a way to get around it, or just have to choose another venue usually? Choose another venue.
Usually just choose another venue, to be honest. It's just such an excruciating process. It really is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, they just gridlock you there. Like, you have to go with their people. Even like sometimes at venues, you have to go with their like event coordinator. You have to go with like their rentals that they have at the venue. You can't bring in outside stuff at all. So on every aspect, at some venues, not all, you have to use all their stuff that they provide. So you don't have flexibility with your design. You don't have flexibility with who you can actually work with. Even if you've been working with people for years, like they don't really care about that. So it's a very daunting task every year.
Damn. So then what inspires you to even get into events after all these fees, after all these things? Like, at what point do you feel like, man, is it worth it? And then you decide it is worth it. What are some of the factors that make it worth it for you?
Man, honestly, if it wasn't for the community rooting for us, I would probably be in a completely different business. I would have chosen a very different lifestyle for myself, because this is really an act of service at the end of the day. Like, this is not glitz and glamour. This is not like I'm going to Fiji at the end of the event because I made this big payout. It's not that. It's really just to see the smile on the community's face when they see what we've put together. It's to see that young girl like open up her swag bag for the first time and see the options she has versus like when we were growing up, we didn't have options when it came to like hair products. And I think some days are just a lot harder than others. And I think that's another thing that people unfortunately don't have grace for when it comes to us. They just think like, oh yeah, it's just wake up and put the event together. It is not that. You're fighting for the company every single day. You're just fighting so many different things. And you're fighting yourself sometimes, like thinking whether you can do it, whether you can pull it off. And, it's hard. It's hard, but it's the community that really keeps us going every single day.
I think also, I can't talk about our business without talking about God, but it's just, Candicia and I have tried so many different things over the year, trying to get a full-time job on top of the businesses. It just doesn't ever go anywhere. So it's like, God is always like, I'm putting you right back here because I have a mission that you have to fulfill. So I think, it's just, honestly, like it's God that keeps me going. Like he's really the sustainer every day because every day can be a new challenge. Like something turns upside down a day before the event. Something on the event day can happen that can ruin the entire thing. So I think it really is God that really sustains us because we've tried other options and he always puts us right back here. So it's just kind of like, what can you do other than just continue?
Man, I have so much more I want to talk to you guys about, but we have to wrap up soon. Now, as work was wrapping up, tell me about the Ultimate coming up this year. What can people expect?
Well, I mean, I feel like first and foremost, all the sponsors are very different. They're all brand new to us. A lot of them are names that people know and love. So one of them is K18. They're sponsoring our event. So I think that's really dope and that's really cool. We also have a few new sponsors to us, which is great. So it's a new roster, which feels different.
We're working with a lot of new people this year, which is really exciting. Like Candicia said, K18, and they're going to be on site at the event doing a special segment, which is really exciting. And we're working with just completely new people, top brands, household names. So it's really exciting for what we have in store this year. I know it's taking us a bit more time this year. Just know we've been working every single day to put this thing together. But I think this year is going to be really different, but really exciting.
Where's it going to be?
Where?
Yeah, where's it going to be and what date is it?
So it's on Sunday, August 25th and it's going to be in Pickering at the Pickering Casino Resort.
Okay. Anything else you want to add before you wrap up, ladies and gentlemen? Well, I'm the gentleman.
Honestly, I think this experience it's one of a kind. It really is. I mean, not to toot our own horn, but I mean, we don't have any other curly hair events in Canada. So this one is special. It's near and dear to our hearts, but I think also too, like, just to know that you are funneling a woman's dream to not only like have the products that she has in her bathroom, but then also to be able to inspire her to keep loving her natural self. I think that's something that's just truly special about our community. And they make friends. They make friends on the day of. So even if you're nervous to come by yourself, you can come by yourself, because the amount of people that make like little like WhatsApp groups and like they always come to the event together after years, like that is just so special to see. So I'm excited. I'm excited for August 25th.
Most definitely. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the podcast. Hustle is what you can't control. So control your grind and control your life. I'm Alex.
Camilla.
Candicia.
That's the show, y'all. Peace.